almost 6 months, so we'll have another biannual meeting coming up in September, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. We're good? Okay. All right, so we'll call this meeting to order at 10:21. This is the steering committee for the Guam Green Growth Initiative. Steering committee members are with us, and the leads of our different categories of action, such as healthy and prosperous communities, educated, capable, and compassionate islands, sustainable homes, utilities and transportation, thriving natural resources, and sustainable alliance. So let's start off with updates from our G3 Action Framework Coordinator, and then we'll get updates from our co-chair, the Lieutenant Governor, as soon as he arrives in a few minutes. So Cam?
How's the day, folks? Thank you all for making the time to be here today. I just wanted to give thanks to the working group members who have provided their updates to the respective portions of the framework. I've been able to consolidate baseline data and create new action items with the adjusted goals, with the contributions from the agencies of the Department of Public Health and Social Services, Bureau of Statistics and Plans, Department of Education, Guam Community College, Guampedia, the Department of Youth Affairs, Department of Labor, Bureau of Women's Affairs, the Guam Energy Office, Guam Waterworks Authority, Guam Power Authority, Guam Housing and Urban Renewal Authority, the Office of Infrastructure Policy and Development, Guam Solid Waste Authority, Port Authority of Guam, the Community Defense Liaison Office, the Governor's Climate Change Resiliency Commission, Sea Grant, Marine Lab, the Department of Agriculture, Forestry Division, Micronesia Challenge, the UOG Cooperative Extension, the Commission on Decolonization, and the Nature Conservancy. The working version of the respective portions of the action framework have been distributed to the working group members. Presently, we have distributed a revised version of the action framework booklet. Our team plans to distribute another booklet by next month during the biannual meeting. I will be in contact with each of the working group members to ensure that the current goals are aligned with the agency's current priority projects, as the last major revision occurred in April of this year. I would also like to incorporate new progress into this print, so please be sure to notate this progress, as it will help us track the effectiveness of the action items listed. We will move on to some announcements from our Associate Coordinator of the Action Framework, Sarah Taitano.
Good morning. So you guys have heard me before. My name is Sarah. I'm responsible for updating the dashboard, all the data that you guys are providing to CAM annually. What I'd like to do is invite each of the working groups, if you have some time at your desk, to review the components on the dashboard related to your working groups, to see if there's anything we're missing, any data that you feel you guys may have that hasn't been pushed out. We'd like to put that on.
Just really want to encourage everybody to take a good look at the G3 dashboard. There's lots of really excellent data there, but if you can, you'll find in your agencies and your groups that some is getting pretty old, like 2021, 2022, and you may have access to the updated data that just needs to get over to Sarah so she can upload that and get that going, and it will be a lot more useful to everybody, because people are using our dashboard not just here in Guam, but around the region, looking to this dashboard as they're developing their own. Welcome, Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, where were you? Did you already do your updates?
We just did updates from
okay. Great. I do want to emphasize that the dashboard is being looked at by everybody. And that's something that I heard myself when I was in Fiji last week at the Pacific Island Forum. So as work continues to push on a whole broad range of issues, it really is being looked at as a model. So, you know, understand the dashboard, go back and look at it, make sure that the indicators are relevant. And we had a kind of like a refresh not too long ago where we're pushing ourselves to make sure that we're still doing things that are relevant, because the reality is that time moves on and sometimes there are different kind of challenges. Sometimes the challenges remain. So in terms of, and maybe I'll just take this minute to talk about the engagement last week. I went with the American Samoa Lieutenant Governor to Pacific Island Forum to push our associate member status agenda item, which was very successful. It resulted in the forum chair from the Cook Islands publicly supporting the application. I want to say that our Micronesian governments that are working with us all played a very key role in pushing that agenda item. American Samoa had Samoa that pushed that for them. There were times where we weren't allowed in the room, but when we came back, people would tell us, and then the public statements, they didn't anticipate this to be on the agenda for the leaders meeting prior to us going. So I think we did some good work. The main message I told them is that despite political status and geopolitics, we've been here, we're still going to be here, the people of Guam, the Chamorro people and the people of Guam, and that political status and borders don't protect us from the issues that are being felt with, being experienced throughout the region with the sea level rise and all the different opportunities for engagement, healthcare, transportation, education. It was interesting to see a lot of the issues that are being discussed, and then also hearing the kind of movement that is going to happen. So I think being in the room is a very good thing to do, but it also made me want to make sure that all the people that are working on Guam Green Growth are supported and have a very good vision about where they want to go, because we are being looked at as a leader in this regard. And I just want to congratulate and thank everybody for that. The other thing I'd like to say is that I know that a bunch of you were at the infrastructure convening in Hawaii a couple of weeks ago, where their federal government is also focusing on different ways to help with the different programs and different needs across the U.S. Territories. Those are other pathways for projects and for some progress in what we're doing. So I think that, what I'm looking forward to seeing where everything is at, and also figuring out how I can be helpful and make sure that the right people are working actively in your focus areas and listening to what maybe the challenges are as well. Thank you very much.
And then I'll just go into my update as co-chair of the steering committee. Just have a brief update for some of the summer progress that our Center for Islands Sustainability team has been working on for coordinating a lot of the facilitation of this G3 initiative. So we assisted working very closely with the governor, Lieutenant Governor Carlotta and Banji with the coordination of the Micronesia Island Forum meeting that was late May, early June. And one of the requests from the leaders in the communique at the end was that that the islands support the development of green growth initiatives. And so there was some really great interest from Chuuk, Koshrai, the national FSM government, and the Marshall Islands. And so the quickest ones to move on this has been the Republic of the Marshall Islands. And the president requested a presentation on this, so I went along with the director of the Hawaii Sea Grant Program, because we have this funded project from the State Department to be able to support a position for coordination in these other islands. So we did that. We met with President Heine and the cabinet, their climate change office, and and also the College of the Marshall Islands, so that there is the potential to create the same kind of public-private partnership that we have here in Guam between UOG and the governor's office. So that is all in motion now. They have to think about what members they would like to appoint to their RMI Green Growth Working Group and how they will get established. So we're hoping to assist them in launching their program before the end of the year and get them the support that they need. And as you may recall from our past meetings, earlier this year in February, we've already helped CNMI and Palau launch their green growth initiatives. Just next after Marshall Islands will be assisting FSM. So we're really excited for that. Thank you again for all the work that you're doing here in Guam and getting that data on the dashboard. They really are looking at this example to see how they can move sustainability forward in their islands as well. Thank you. Cam, could you walk us through the updates for our leads? Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor and Dr. Shelton. We'll move on to the general updates from our G3 working group chairs. We will start with the Healthy and Prosperous Communities Working Group. Arts and Augustine.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Shelton, and members of the G3. With regard to our composition, just want to make a notation that
Absolutely. Our composition now for Public Health and Social Services is Acting Director Teresa Riola, and for Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center, it is now Carissa Pangilinan. With regards to our update, I do want to thank Public Health and Social Services for providing baseline data, especially for Zero Hunger. And so just to share with the group, for example, under the WIC program, in 2023, they had 9,131 unduplicated enrollees, and that's an increase from the prior year of 8,691. They also have family household count, which is 4,478, an increase from the prior year of 4,238. In terms of the average monthly participation in the program, in 23, it was 5,847, and in 22, it's 5,334. Another piece of information that is been shared by Public Health and Social Service is the food that has been, funds that have been, food benefit has been spent at the retailers. So I'm gonna give you data for 21, 22, and 23. It has increased from 21, it was over 5 million in SNAP benefits expended at our retail shops here in Guam for food. In 22, it's 6 million, and in 23, it is 7 million. And then we're going to go to the food program under the nutrition services for our elderly. In 23, we had a total of 4,186 clients served, as compared to our 23 number, which is the 2,944. Yeah, there was a drop of about 800 and so. The drop is a couple hundred. The drop is attributed to COVID-19. While we were under COVID-19, Lieutenant Governor and Dr. Shelton and members, the seniors were being provided meals at their home or through a drive-through at the senior center and adult daycare centers as well. So seniors who used to go to McDonald's and other establishments, Shirley's for breakfast and coffee breaks, and they do that if you've seen them in the morning over at McDonald's and whatnot, they were at home, so they were enrolled into the program. And that increased the number of participants during that year. I reached out to Public Health, and Deputy Terry is working on getting data for the numbers for 24 year to date. We want to get that and for where they're at to see if we can project how they're tracking for SNAP, for WIC, and for the nutrition program for the elderly. So we should get that, and we'll be working with Cameron to and the team, Sarah, to update all that information. And that's what we have at this time, subject to your inquiry, sir, and Dr. Austin.
Thank you, Mr. San Augustine. We'll move on to the Educated, Capable, and Compassionate Island Working Group with our co-chairs, Dr. Mary Okada and Director Lonnie Brennan. I'll go ahead and start, and then Director Brennan can add in. I guess the hot topic of the week, of the month, of the year is going to be the refurbishment and trying to get all the GDOE schools online for the beginning of the academic year. So there are some major refurbishments that have already been let. So there's about 8 to 10 schools that will be undergoing major refurbishment, and contracts have already been awarded. And so hopefully that brings the facilities up to par in terms of meeting the public health inspections. We do know that based on the recent messaging that's been going out, there's 24 schools now that are slated to be open, and additional schools will come online once the public health inspections are completed. School begins tomorrow for many of the schools that have already completed their inspections, and the next round is slated for August 22nd. So there's been a daily update by the superintendent and the chair of the Healthy Schools Committee, Mr. Angel Sablan. In addition to that, GDOE is working with GPA to put together some solar power for the schools. And so they're working through that project already. So that'll help bring some additional capacity to solar power for the schools.
And then I guess one of the big components that is coming through is the Smarter Balance assessment that was done last academic year. The results of those assessments should be rolling out in the next month or so. So we'll see how students fare in terms of whether or not they're on grade level, and if they're not, what are we doing to provide support to them to fill those gaps. And so that should be forthcoming soon. In terms of the update to the Guam Community College, we do have one pending lead building that is undergoing its final commissioning, so we should have results of that in the next month or so. We did receive a big grant, a youth build grant, that actually takes into consideration those in the community that do not have adult education diplomas or GEDs. And so that marries them up with the construction component, and it really is to help facilitate and build low-income housing. So that's ready. We've already been awarded the grant, and that'll help increase the number of completers in adult education as well. In addition to that, the college launched a free college initiative in 4 specific areas: education, accounting, IT, and construction, primarily because those are the jobs that are most available right now. Although we'd like to include nursing, we have a waiting list, and so we couldn't possibly take any additional students in that regard. We're continuing with our boot camps, the most recent being ship repair. We do have a plumbing boot camp that just completed, a home health aid also. So we'll be, there's about 3 or 4 completion ceremonies that are upcoming in the next couple of weeks. And then for the University of Guam, they do have under construction, I believe, 4 major facilities right now, and they are expecting more capital improvements to their facilities. There was a new announcement of some additional funding provided by the endowment that helps to support the UOG campus growth. And I'm just working with Carlotta as a result of the MIF reaching out to our education partners to help distribute additional books, textbooks that are available from the GDOE to put to good use out in the region. So we did send out that message last week, and we've got additional 2 responses so far. So we're hoping that they're going to take advantage, Chuk and the Marshalls, and so hopefully they'll participate and take some of the books, 198 pallets of books that are available for distribution, possibly out in the region. And I'll turn it over to Director Brennan if she would like to add some additional info.
Just with regard to the Department of Youth Affairs, we had our summer youth employment program. And we had 1,620 applicants, but we were only able to place 856 kids. That means that 764 were not placed. We're looking at other ways to increase our capacity. Some of those things that we want to explore is the hotel and restaurant industry. We did add a new feature. Aside from just the government agencies, host agencies, we were able to collaborate with Public Health and Social Services, and we added a child care component, workforce development component, and it was really successful. A couple of our kids even have maintained employment with their respective child care agencies. So it's a really good way to build the workforce. Additionally, we continue to work with the Judiciary of Guam and many of the juvenile justice stakeholders in the Juvenile Justice and Child Welfare Improvement Collaborative. The subcommittees meet monthly. The subcommittees are composed of data collecting and sharing, the juvenile referral process and detention, dual status youth, statutory and rule changes, and family and community engagement. So those subcommittees meet monthly, and I was hoping that Danielle Rossetti would be here to give the updates. However, I'll get that to you later, Ken. Also, the Department of Youth Affairs has been involved in a transformational implementation process with RFK. RFK is the Resource Center for Juvenile Justice. We've been engaged with them since December 2023. And what it is we're trying to improve and enhance the conditions of confinement for juveniles. So one of the things that we did and was highlighted this summer was we moved the social workers out of their offices and into the dormitories so that the kids could have access to them, ready access to them. And so that has helped with behavioral infractions. And also we implemented a behavior management incentive point system. So there's a commissary where they can purchase snacks, and it's based on good behavior. So that has also decreased incidents against the staff and against other residents.
Thank you, Dr. Okada and Director Brennan. We'll move on to the Sustainable Homes, Utilities, and Transportation Working Group with Director Rebecca Respicio.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Well, one of the things that has happened that was a huge change since the last time we reported in April was the Guam 100 Advisory Group officially launched last week, Thursday. This Guam 100 Advisory Group is being handled by NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab. And basically what happened was there are various stakeholders throughout the island that are going to be helping to aid in Guam's 100% renewable goal by 2045. And we're happy to say that it's a really wonderful partnership with key stakeholders throughout the island. So I think we're going to be meeting quarterly, if not sooner in the beginning. But we're so happy that that already took place. Another update would be that our Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant, this is the $1.6 million that we reported in April that we did receive, and this is going towards some solar paneling on government buildings as well as solar lighting within the community. And I'm happy to report that Siemens Corporation has already completed the assessment of the selected buildings and the lighting areas in the community. These were all identified by, well, of course, we targeted the youth programs that serve buildings that service youth programs and Manamco programs in the homeless population. And we're just waiting on the final assessment to determine which buildings we're going to be able to afford based on the small amount of money that we have. But that said, I'm happy to report that I am working on another funding opportunity through the EPA Change Grant in partnership with a private entity here on island who gets to partner with some selected government agencies. And I had asked whether or not we could basically take what our components are of the EECBG grant and then use this additional funding to just expand it so that we could target more government buildings and more parks and communities that need solar lighting. So hopefully I'll have
can you also, when will you know what is funded in the funds that you have right now?
I think Siemens told us in our call just yesterday morning to just give them a couple more weeks to give us the full report. They're putting it together. And they are also going to make the recommendations as far as building capacity, building structure, what makes the most sense for solar with who needs battery, who wouldn't need battery storage. That's really going to eat up a bulk of the money. But after that, they're ready. GPA will handle the procurement because we do have an MOU with them. And so that should already be something that is.
So I guess what I was going to say is whatever comes up in the recommendations from Siemens that is not funded, I think you should get ready to submit a hazard mitigation grant program application for whatever's remaining that won't be funded.
Okay.
Because we have a big, large pot, but there's more programs than, right? There's always more programs. But we want to be able to use that to guide priorities. So go ahead and, you'll hear more about that in the next few weeks, I would say.
Awesome. Okay, great. I wrote that down. So that's with EECBG. And then just to update our state energy program, bill money, we are currently in the bid process for the electric vehicles that we are purchasing. I'll work with the governor's office to determine where 6 EVs are going to be distributed out to, and it could be within the different agencies that may have the greatest need. But with that in mind also, it includes the charging stations. So Siemens also took a look at where, it might be viable to put, and we're just thinking if we're going to put solar panels on certain buildings, they would already have the infrastructure to help support charging an electric vehicle without adding any additional cost. So those are things that we're really looking into. With regards to our LIHEAP program, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, that officially launched in June, and we are expanding and extending the application period until September 15. Again, this is just a way to help the community that are in energy crisis. Also tied into that, of course, they would definitely be those that we would look forward to hopefully serving in the Solar for All program. The Solar for All program in April, I reported we weren't sure we were going to get selected. I'm happy to report, and maybe you read it in the news, that Guam did get selected for $62.4 million. And while it is a combination of both a residential low-income qualifying loan program, we are also working with our project officers to look at different variations of how we can modify our submission to also include for community solar and work closely with GPA on some of the low-income housings. We also asked a question about whether or not we could also utilize it for Gura homes. So we're just working closely with the project officer to see what additional things we would be able to, incorporate into this plan. That said, we also are, our proposal for the $50 million IRA home energy rebates program is due in January, and we are really tracking very good with that in terms of the research for the application. It is non-competitive, so we do have a $50 million allocation coming to our agency and to the island for rebate programs. Everything is going to be able to be stacked with other programs that are going to help homeowners really afford this transition into energy efficiency and electrification, updating the electrification. That said, we also submitted for a $900,000 training for residential energy contractors grant, which is going to come our way. It is an allocation, and this is to get contractors trained properly to also provide the energy audits that are required for all of these projects. But we're also writing another couple $1 million competitive grant for the same program to build capacity. So Austin doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to ask to partner up with him on this. Also maybe GCC, because they are the educational institutions, and then the Guam Contractors Licensing Board, and then GPA, of course. And so we're hoping to ask for another maybe $2 million, and we're going to start the writing process for that. That's to build capacity for the entire island, to just train more contractors and individuals to become energy auditors for all of these projects. I think that's a lot, but that's basically it. We look forward to providing additional updates at the next biannual meeting. We also have here Guam Housing, if you have anything to add to that. Gura is also here if they have anything to add. And then the Brent from the Guam Building Code Council, if you have anything to add. But I know Cam, OGP is also here, but Cam, I know a lot of agencies also provided you with updates. Thank you.
Anyone else want to add?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay. So just to share with the group, we've taken a shift in our strategic goals and outlook, and consistent with what's happening in the mainland is a look at what's been dubbed as the missing middle. So primarily, a lot of our future outside of the programs that we run, right, which are always going to be affordable programs for low income, that's a given. We're taking new directions and trying to create environments for attainable housing. And we've now dubbed that as housing for families based on the family size. So let's say it's a family size of 4 that are 80 to 120% of the area median income. And so there's a families with a gross household income of 70,000 to 120,000. So after 120,000, they can still attain affordable housing. Those below, anyone below family of 4 making 70,000 a year is considered low income, right? So there are programs that will support them. They can avail themselves to others. And so we want to tackle it on both ends and start decompressing the market and start making it more affordable by adding more inventory, but inventory that's flexible, right? If you have too many low income homes, that bars people who make too much from getting in there. If you have too many luxury homes, that bars anybody from getting in there, right? And so we want more attainable housing. And so one of the key things is to really, if there's any takeaway, is to project. If affordable housing has a very specific definition. So if you're not using it towards that definition, stop using the word, right? Because it just confuses people. So if you're talking about housing to get our people into, that's attainable housing. It's a broad definition. We want to tailor it to 80 to 120. But the hard definition of affordable housing is no more than 30% of a household's gross household income. That includes shelter costs and utilities, no more than 30% of their gross household income. And so the fact of the matter is, unless they're subsidized in a great way in the beginning and continual subsidies, affordability is kind of out of the realm of possibility for more people right now. And the only way to get there is to focus on more attainable housing as we develop more housing inventory. And so policies, what GER has been doing is looking at policies. What do our laws look like? What are other jurisdictions doing to create an environment for more attainable housing, right? That's a much more realistic goal. But as far as that ties into G3, is that any of the policy proposals we have are going to have environmental considerations as part of that, right? Like ensuring future development, medium density or high density projects are all going to be connected to sewer, have the ability to grow, have green spaces as part of that community planning and development. And so that's kind of just a broad outlook of what GER has been working on.
Okay. Thank you both for your updates. We'll move on to the Thriving Natural Resources Working Group with co-chairs Vanji Lujan and Frank Castro.
So, good morning. Just a few updates under Life Below Water Fisheries Management Plan. We finally got the MOU signed between UOG, CRA, and DAR to work to do their outreach, reaching out to the communities to get input on their fishery management plan and the selected species that they did this survey for. They selected some species of fish for management, and so they're just seeking more input for that to complete their plan. The second, under climate action, we met with the public auditor and a couple of the staff to work on the climate scanner assessment. This assessment will account for all the climate efforts that are ongoing here on Guam. Vanji and I are working together, and we submitted all of the documents like regulations, reports, plans, projects to account for all of the things that we're doing. And so they'll be transmitting the draft final report to you, and Austin do a review before they submit the final report to, I guess, Brazil is the country that's managing it. For terrestrial, we're just continuing on with planning events for this summer. We are also applying for an EPA community change grant with a couple of groups. One is for a green workforce center, and this would expand workforce development using the G3 conservation core model and have more green workforce members, as well as office space to kind of like have them there like regularly, and also a coordinator to manage these members. And then the second one is that we're expanding the Ugum agroforestry project, and we're working with Guam Sustainable Culture, who's also going to open up a food resilience hub and expand their composting project that they're working on with Guam EPA. And then also the makerspace will be involved because we'll be helping to make those composting pails and things like that for the project. So it all tied together. And I'll turn it over to Vanji.
Thank you, Fran. In addition to the things that have been happening that Fran has reported, I do want to say that during the Micronesian Island Forum meeting, we were able to raise funds for scholarships for people in conservation. I believe that under the Bill Rayner Scholarship, I believe we had 10 applicants, and of the 10, they're selecting 5. That's to pay for either their master's degree program or their PhD program. And so we should find out who the recipients are very soon. In December, we will be having a meeting to identify the targets for the new Micronesia Challenge 2030 goals, and we will make sure that it aligns with the Guam Green Growth or the Green Growth actions that are in the other various jurisdictions within the region. That will be somewhat of a high-level regional meeting, and it'll be managed by CGRAT. We'll be doing all the logistics for that meeting. Yes, it will be on Guam in December. We completed and well, it's ongoing, but the first round of the data repository for all of the natural resources sections, so terrestrial, marine, and climate, it's been completed. It's now on the Sea Grant website. It contains all scientific information, grade information, so literature on articles or plants or different things related to our section, the Thriving Natural Resources. So please visit the Sea Grant website and go to that. You can see it's the repository. So Clem, our coordinator, worked with all the agencies involved so that all that critical data is put into one place. That's the only place you need to go to now. So she's been working with all the agencies just to make sure we've captured a lot of the data, but periodically she will continue to work with the agencies so that that repository is kept updated. We are also did get the report back on the carbon credit application for reforestation. We're in the first phase of that. We're going to be looking to get additional funds to complete that process. So we're looking at doing carbon credit for reforestation projects. But I did talk to Miguel Berdalio, and he wants to do, there is carbon credit for water loss. And so his goals related to that carbon credit will be reflected in our September meeting, what those will be. There is a process already for carbon credit for water loss, and it's really about the reduction of carbon into the atmosphere, and then what that credit looks like. Oh, that will also be included in the climate scanner because that's something relatively new that we want to make sure that is captured by the auditor. And finally, we are having one of the things in our section under Thriving Natural Resources is the health of the aquifer. And we will be having an aquifer meeting with all the stakeholders tomorrow. We have it's a hybrid, so you can come to GWA, GPA, sorry. I think they think I think it's really the GPA building in Fidian. But we call it the GWA building.
But it's the same building.
It's the Gloria B. Nelson Public Service Building at 8:30, and we'll be. But we do have a link for that, and so I can give that link to you in case anybody's interested. The topics we will cover are the recent Public Law 37-105, the advanced nitrogen reducing systems, and what Guam EPA is going to do to what the process is for implementing that. The new rule related to PFAS and the emerging contaminant of dieldrin, and those public comments are due today. But they have a process on how they're going to be implementing that and what it means to drinking water.
I think they have draft rules already for 105, I think.
Yes, so they're going to report on that tomorrow. So if you're interested in that, please, I'll give Cameron that, and you can send out the link, or you can come to the meeting in person. And finally, WIRI will be they have a new visualization tool related to the aquifer itself and all the data that's available, but they put it in a very, in visualization, so you can fly through the aquifer and different kinds of things. And so it's a big mapping project, so we will be discussing that tomorrow. So that's it, thank you.
Thank you both for reporting that progress. We'll move on to the Sustainable Alliances Working Group. We have Senator Carlotta Leon Guerrero who's representing.
Thank you very much. The Lieutenant Governor in Austin talked about the Micronesian Island Forum briefly. So I would just add a little bit to that. Governor Leon Guerrero is now the chairman and will be the chair for the next year of the Micronesian Island Forum. And we feel that it was very successful, this recent meeting, and it strengthened our friendships and our partnerships and our relationships. What I would want to say to Cam and Sarah is on how do we track what just came out of it? There was a bunch of resolutions. I don't know if those resolutions would get tagged into different ones of our committee as an accomplishment. So maybe that's a discussion, like an example, a big push on air transportation that's resulting right now in the governor drafting a letter to the Department of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, on reviewing federal policies that are inhibiting air traffic. So that sort of thing. I don't know if those should be plugged in as action.
Yes.
accomplishments, because Austin was saying some of us are showing 2021 and that we're really being looked at, or you were saying that. So that would be some newer accomplishments. On the United Nations, Mel asked me to speak to that, but I believe you were there.
No.
Oh, okay.
At the UN? No, he went to the regional seminar in advance of the C24, and he went to Venezuela, which I would not be going to.
So what he wanted me to let you know is that the Commission on Decolonization went to the UN. They pushed for a UN visiting mission, and they gathered support for Guam diplomacy training, and they also got UN recognition for our study on self-determination, and it did get recognized. The Lieutenant Governor talked about the Pacific Island Forum meeting. The governor and I will go to the next one, which is in Tonga in shortly, the 26th to the 30th, but it's been made so much easier by the work of the Lieutenant Governor of Guam and the Lieutenant Governor of American Samoa. But I think that going there with the support of the Micronesian Island Forum in that resolution, you said that was very important.
No, it is, so I think that's why the resolutions from the MIF coming into G3 are very important, because those are public commitments that we're making on behalf of the entire island as part of a regional effort. So it's very high performing for that to be within what we're doing. But what I wanted to say is that even Kiribati, by the way, joined in the partnership. And so even within the region, they're really far away, and we haven't really seen a lot of their leaders, even they were very vocally supportive within their closed meeting, is what I understand. So I think that they're also just how the Micronesians are the most organized, as are the Melanesians. Polynesians are not. So there's interest. They're looking at us also. And the other thing is, I think for the next MIF, or in all MIFs, the PIF wants to be invited to observe.
Oh,
yeah,
that's huge. That's so significant. LT, and just to let you know, Dr. Okada and I were talking about with all of these textbooks that we have, the most struggling school system in the region is in Kiribati, and so we're kind of paying attention. I've showed some pictures to her of their school system, so we're really paying attention. So we like Kiribati, and we're gonna try to show them some extra special attention with this surplus. And one other thing that I would like to add is something I'm working with the Lieutenant Governor on, and I'm sorry, I should have plugged this in, but we're working with the Chukis communities on Guam to take over abandoned parks, to look at abandoned parks, and I don't know exactly how that plugs in, but it does feel like that should plug into one of our working groups. So it's just started, and this is like the first opportunity maybe to start plugging it in. Does that fit?
Yes.
It would fit, right?
Yes.
Under our group, the Healthy and Prosperous Communities, they have a section for green space and walking space. So for health, definitely, yeah, it would fit.
Okay.
even as a matter of equity.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that's all I had from Sustainable Alliances.
Thank you, Senator Leon Guerrero. I'll be in contact with you in terms of those resolutions, just so we can have an idea of what they were, and we'll insert it into the appropriate working group sections. We'll move on and close with our Data and Community Engagement Co-Chair, Deputy Executive Manager, Ricky Hernandez.
Thanks, and good morning, everyone. I just wanted to reiterate the Lieutenant Governor and Dr. Shelton's I think it's appreciation to the working group members and just reviewing the dashboard to get some updates. I know that as Lieutenant Governor mentioned, it's an iterative process, and so because there was so much attention on it throughout the region, that it'd be good for us to take a look and update where appropriate. As Senator Carlotta mentioned, how do we track some of the things at MIF under Sustainable Alliances on the dashboard? Because I know we have 3 data points, but it might be helpful to revisit that to see how we can adjust that. And as I listened to everyone's report especially Art, with Healthy and Prosperous Communities. There are some data points there that we could probably review and add. And so I guess over the next 6 months or a year, we'll be looking at that, as Lieutenant Governor mentioned, to make some updates accordingly. But the most important thing is really ensuring that data that does come into the dashboard, and if, Sarah Titan obviously is the one that's been doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and kudos to her and Cameron and the team. But looking at officially published information and data, I think that's one of the key areas that gets posted on the dashboard. And so we'll revisit those over the next few months and see what might be added or adjusted, so we can kind of accurately account for some of the changes that have occurred over the last since we started this process. With that, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to thank all of you for making the time to be here today and for contributing and reporting your progress. I wanted to let the Lieutenant Governor know that there have been some updates that were not encompassed in the meeting, so I will be sending you a report of those updates. We'll move on to announcements. On behalf of Guam Green Growth, we wanted to invite you to a proclamation signing declaring next month as Sustainable September. This proclamation signing will take place in this conference room on Friday, August 30th at 9 a.m. We will recognize our working group members who have helped us move this initiative forward, creating and supporting our partnerships for the Sustainable Development Goals. As mentioned earlier, we will be planning our biannual meeting to be held next month. I will send out notice and be in contact with each of you in terms of when that date and venue is confirmed. Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Shelton, do you have any announcements? All right, thank you so much, everybody. We'll adjourn this meeting at 11:07.